Dear students of English literature, this is fifth semester core English paper on the 20th century. This is session 16 in the course plan and unit 2. The topic of the session is examples of poetic devices in Hopkins. The learning objective of this session is to familiarize you with the context of frequently used critical concepts in the study of literature to enable note making and concept evaluation. The particular outcome of this session is to give you an academic orientation in your response to literature and society so that you can use the terms in your responses to literary works. You will be studying G.M. Hopkins in this paper. He's not a 20th century poet, but he's a precursor to 20th century ideas. He's one of the most important Victorian, mark that, he's not modern, he's Victorian, who came into recognition after his death because of the efforts of his friend Robert Bridges. While he was alive, he was not really a recognized poet. He wrote poetry and he produced all that, but then he wasn't as published or as recognized as he was after his death. He was born into a Protestant family but later converted to Catholicism. He was a devout Christian throughout his life. Oh, he was born into Protestant family. As you are aware, there are two important sects of Christian religion. One is Catholic, and another one is Protestant. The Catholic uh, sect or the Catholic group strictly observes the injunctions given by the Pope of the Vatican Church. They believe that the religion as it's followed today should be interpreted and should be sanctioned by the Pope sitting in Roman Vatican Church or Vatican Church in Rome. But Protestant people, they are the sect who came into uh, being after Martin Luther's ideas of Reformation, and they think that no priest should mediate the relationship between one human being to the God. So they think that the relationship should be direct and should not be mediated by priests. Hence, they propound, especially Protestants. So, as the word itself says, it is protesting the earlier idea of religion, especially the Catholic variant of the Christian religion. So, Protestant family believes in studying the scriptures for itself or attending church and having a direct experience of the Christian religion. So he was born into one such family, but later converted to Catholicism. So he converted later on to the more orthodox variant of Christianity, which is Catholicism. He was a devout Christian throughout his life. Devout ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬ ಭಕ್ತ ಅನ್ನೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ he never questioned the religion, served as a church warden and taught Sunday school. The concept of Sunday school is very interesting in Christianity. Oh, it is almost like a religious camp kind of a thing, especially arranged for young people, especially children and young people who want to know about religion. So, Sunday school is also one place where they hold discussions about religion, where people come together to discuss ideas about Christianity, their thoughts, their faith, their doubts. Oh, that's the place. It's almost like it's a school for studying Bible. So usually the priest or some other important member of the church community holds Sunday schools. Or he was a church warden. Church warden is somebody who looks after the affairs of church, and he also taught Sunday school. That means he was also engaging with Christian children and young Christian or the youth Christian population. So he was the founder of a marine insurance firm. It's very interesting, what kind of a man this poet is. He's not just a person who is very spiritual, otherworldly kind, but he was also somebody who was very much engaged in commerce, in trade, and he, is the founder of a marine insurance firm, which impacted the choice of his themes for his poems. That means he was very close to life and death, and that's exactly what comes out in his points. He was interested in visual art. So he wasn't just a person who played with words. He was also interested in visual arts, especially sketching and painting. So there is one another poet who is equally well versed in the two crafts of painting and writing poetry. Oh, this is William Blake. Oh, even his ideas are very religious, and his motives and his themes are religious in nature. Likewise, you see Hopkins interested not just in poetry and creation of poetry, but he's also interested in visual art, sketching, painting, which influences the way he crafts imagery in his poems. So this his ability to paint and sketch also impacts the way he constructs poetry. So that means when he uses words, he tries to give you the images. So he kind of brings to you verbal images. You will learn more about this when as you read Hopkins's poems in this course. Some important poems of Hopkins: The Wreck of the Deutschland, 1875, The Wind Over, 1877, Pied Beauty, which is one of the most important pieces of poetry that he has written. Probably you will study Pied Beauty in this paper. The Loss of the Eurydice, 1878, A Philosopher's Stone and Other Poems, 1843, Pietas Metrica. Metrica, this is a very Latin term which means meter and so 1849, Spicilegium Poeticum, a gathering of verses by Manly Hopkins, published posthumously. So posthumously means after his death. Whenever you use the word posthumous, it means after somebody's death. So his last work, that is Spicilegium Poeticum, a gathering of verses. Verses means poetic creations. They were published after his death in 1892. Hopkins is known for his own inventions when it came to creating or writing poetry. So he is known for sprung rhythm. His names associated with this term sprung rhythm. What is sprung rhythm? It's a rhythmic structure organized on the basis of feet. Okay, rhythmic structure ಅಂದ್ರೆ poetry ಒಂದು rhythm ಇರ್ತದಲ್ಲ ನೋ ಯಾ ಹೇಗೆ ಏರಿಳಿತಗಳಿರತ್ತಲ್ಲ that is the rhythmic structure which is organized on the basis of feet. So feet andre feet consists of two syllables, one stressed and one unstressed syllable together make a foot. ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಸಿಲಬಲ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಸಿಲಬಲ್ ಎರಡೂ ಸೇರಿ ಇಟ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ಅ ಫುಟ್. ಸಿಲಬಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಬ್ರೆತ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಉಚ್ಚಾರ ಮಾಡೋ ಅಂತಹ ಸೌಂಡ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಸಿಲಬಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಸಿಲಬಲ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದೇ ಬ್ರೆತ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಆಗೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಇರೋ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪದ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಪ್ರೀ ಕರ್ ಸರ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ 3 syllabic word, that is precursor. Okay, then verse is 1 syllabic word. More modernist is 1 syllabic word. Poetry. Okay, so ಹೀಗೆ ಒಂದು ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವ ಶಬ್ದ ಎಷ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಬ್ರೆತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಉಚ್ಚಾರ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅದನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಸಿಲ್ಬಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಸಿಲ್ಬಲ್. ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ವೇರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅ ಮೇಜರ್ ರೋಲ್. ಕೆಲವು ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ನ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಕೆಲವು ಸಿಲಬಲ್ಸ್ನ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಾಗಲ್ಲ ವಿದಿನ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ವರ್ಡ್. ದಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಗಿವ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ದಿಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಸೋನಿಕ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಟು ದಿಸ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಅದರದೇ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಇದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಈ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ ಅಪ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಡೌನ್ಸ್. It's not like other Indian languages where each sound is important. Sometimes some things are stressed, some things are not stressed. So this is the difference between English language and Indian languages, for example. Nammali elvu stress states, and then we don't have something called unstressed syllable. So it's a variant of strong stress meters and accentual words. Accentual words ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಮೀಟರ್ ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇ. ಮೀಟರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನಂದರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಫೀಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಇವಾಗ ಪೆಂಟಾಮೀಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಸಿಲ್ಬಲ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಸಿಲ್ಬಲ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸಿಲಬಲ್ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಪೆಂಟಾಮೀಟರ್ ಅಂದರೆ 5 ಏನೋ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಸಿಲ್ಬಲ್ದು ಫುಟ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಅದು ಪೆಂಟಾಮೀಟರ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಛಂದಸ್ಸು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ thing you have to notice here. Nim Lagu Guru ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, perhaps that comes close to your idea of foot and stressed and unstressed thing. Accentual versal hege andre, it doesn't matter how many unstressed syllables are there. What matters is how many stressed syllables are there. So you count the stressed syllables and decide on the meter in accentual verse. As the term itself suggests, the accent ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಆಕ್ಸೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಏರಿಸ್ತೀರಾ ಅಥವಾ ತುಂಬ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಲ್ಬಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫುಟ್. ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಈ ಸ್ಪ್ರಂಗ್ ರಿದಮಲ್ಲಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಲ್ಬಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫುಟಲ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ರಿದಮ್. ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ರಿದಮ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಅನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಈ ಪ್ಯಾಟರ್ನ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ರಿದಮ್. It's a precursor to free verse in the modernist poetry. Perhaps why you are studying Hopkins is because he is a precursor. ಅಂದರೆ ಅದರ ಹಿಂದೆ ಬಂದಂಥವ್ರು. ಫ್ರೀ ವರ್ಸ್ ಬರಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡರ್ನಿಸ್ಟ್ ಪೊಯಿಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇವರು ತುಂಬ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೂಯೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಮನುಷ್ಯ. ಹಿ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೂಯೆನ್ಸಸ್ ದ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಫ್ರೀ ವರ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಮಾಡರ್ನಿಸ್ಟ್ ಪೊಯಿಟ್ರಿ. ಸೊ ಫ್ರೀ ವರ್ಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಮೆಟ್ರಿಕಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂಧಿತವಾಗಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋ ಅಂಥದ್ದು ಫ್ರೀ ವರ್ಸ್. He is also known for some other poetic inventions, especially curtal sonnet. So curtal sonnet, as you are aware, sonnet is a poem of 14 lines. 14 lines ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿರುವಂಥ poemಗೆ ನಾವು sonnet ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Sonnet is of Italian origin. Originally ಅದು ಇಟಲಿಯಿಂದ ಬಂದಂಥದ್ದು. So literal meaning of curtal sonnet is sonnet cut short. So that means ಒಂದು ಸಾನೆಟ್ನ ಕಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಹೇಗೆ, ಕಟ್ ಶಾರ್ಟ್. ಅ ಕರ್ಟೇಲ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೆಟ್ರಾರ್ಕನ್ ಸಾನೆಟ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಪೋರ್ಷನಲಿ. ಹೇಗೇಗೋ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಪ್ರೊಪೋರ್ಷನೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟೂ ಕೈಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಟೂ ವೇರಿಯಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾನೆಟ್. ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಪೆಟ್ರಾರ್ಕನ್ ಸಾನೆಟ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಇಟಾಲಿಯನ್ ಪೋಯೆಟ್ ಪೆಟ್ರಾರ್ಕ್, and Elizabethan sonnet, which was an English variant of sonnet coming from the Elizabethan era, especially after Shakespeare onwards. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪೆಟ್ರಾರ್ಕನ್ ಸಾನೆಟ್ ಹೇಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟೇವ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಸೆಸ್ಟೆಟ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. Octave is 8 lines, sestet is 6 lines. So 8 plus 6 is equal to 14. So that is the structure of Petrarchan sonnet. Whereas in Elizabethan sonnet, it is 3 quatrains. Quatrains ಅಂದರೆ 4 linesಗೆ quatrain ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So 4 plus 4 plus 4 is equal to 12, followed by a couplet. Couplet ಅಂದರೆ 2 line, ಕೊನೆಗೆ 2 line, which actually gives you 14 lines. So Petrarchan sonnet structure is 8 plus 6, whereas Elizabethan sonnet structure is 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. Hopkins used the term curtal sonnet for the first time in his preface to poems in 18, which was written in 1918 ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಂತಹ prefaced nalli he uses this term, what do you say, the curtal sonnet. Lines of a sonnet reduced to 10.5 lines from usual 14. So curtal sonnet, as the term itself suggests, it is sonnet cut short. So Petrarchan sonnet 14 ಲೈನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 10.5 lines ಇರುತ್ತೆ, divided into 2 stanzas of 6 lines plus 4 lines plus half a line tail piece. So 10.5 lines ನ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ 6 lines, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ 4 lines and half a line tail piece. ಸೊ ಆಕ್ಟೇವ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಪೋರ್ಷನಲಿ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಆಕ್ಟೇವ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೆಟ್ರಾರ್ಕನ್ ಸಾನೆಟ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ಅ ಸೆಸ್ಟೆಟ್. ಸೊ 8 lines to 6 lines ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, and sestet becomes a quatrain, which is 4 lines in curtal sonnet. So example poems of Hopkins which follow this curtal sonnet pattern are Peace, Pied Beauty, Ashbos. Quiet beauty as a Curdle sonnet. If you have noticed, you have seen first six lines as first stanza, and then four lines as second stanza, and then one half line, purti line alla, half line. So let's see, how it is. Also pay attention to the way sound varies and how it is done. Glory be to God for dapple things, for skies of couple color as brinded cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh fire cold chestnut falls, finches wings, landscape plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plough, and all trades their gear and tackle and trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange, whatever is fickle, freckle, who knows how, with swift, slow, sweet, sour, a dazzle dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change, praise him. So this is a poem praising God. Godನ praise ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಬರೆದಿರುವಂಥ poem. So we are not going into the details of the poem, nor are we going into interpreting this poem. We are just noticing the structure of the poem here. So you have six lines for stanza, which is a sestet, which is six lines, and then you have a quatrain, four lines of second stanza, and a half line. So arda line ಕೊನೆಗೆ tail piece ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬಾಲದ ತರ ಕೊನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಡುವಂಥದ್ದು. So this is Curtle sonnet. Some of the other concepts that Hopkins gave are inscape and instress. Both were invented. More than invention, he reused it. The concepts inscape and instress originally come from Duns Scotus. He was a theologian and a philosopher. So theologian andre people who academically study religions, no theologians anta ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So theology is theo means God, logy is science, it's science of God or religion. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ theology ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನೀವು sociology, political science, biology, anthropology ಓದ್ ಹಾಗೇನೆ theology ಕೂಡ ಜನ ಓದ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಥಿಯೋಲಜಿಯನ್ ಡನ್ ಸ್ಕಾಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋರ ಪ್ರಭಾವದಿಂದ reinterpreted these concepts inscape and instress. Inscape denotes an individual and distinct form, the oneness of a natural object. So by that, what we mean is, so what Hopkins believed is each object of nature, whether it is a landscape or sky or a tree or a bird, it has its own unique, distinct quality that God has created, and you need to have the eye to see what is so special about that thing. So ಅದನ್ನ ಇನ್ಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎನಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಂಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ that is almost divine in any object of nature is inscape. This comes close to the romantic ideal that Wordsworth gives you. You know, the way Wordsworth sees nature, inscape comes close to that, which is to notice or to notice that quality in any object of nature which is kept there by God Himself. So, in stress is the energy of being by which things are upheld, and the natural stress which determines an inscape. So, in stress is that ability within a human being which kind of in stress ಅನ್ನೋದು ಹೇಳೋ ಹಾಗೆ it is your ability to see that, it's your ability to observe that thing, ಅದನ್ನ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗುರ್ತಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, it's your ability to recognize the inscape. So does it make an impression on you in all its specialness, an object of nature, or not, is the concept behind in stress. So inscape ಅನ್ನೋದು ಯುನೀಕ್ ಡಿವೈನ್ ಗುಣ ಆದರೆ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಿಮಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಗುರ್ತಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯನಾ, whether a reader who is reading it or a person who is writing poetry, will that impress upon his mind, is the difference between inscape and instress. What both things tell you is, do you recognize the specialness or unique quality of God in each and everything that you encounter in nature? in stress is the sensation of escape. So look at that. As I told, it's about your impression or your feeling of escape, a kind of mystical illumination or insight into the underlying order and unity of creation. ಸೊ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಈ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಹೇಗಾಗಿದೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಂದಿರೋ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಯೂನಿಟಿ, ಇದನ್ನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಗುರುತಿಸುವ ಕಣ್ಣಿದೆಯಾ? ವಿಲ್ ವಿಲ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದಟ್ ಸೆನ್ಸೇಷನ್? ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ concept that he gives. And this particular definition of in stress that I have put here on the slide, it's taken from J. Cutton's A Dictionary of Literary Terms and Literary Theory. This is another reference book alongside Mr. Abrahams's Glossary of Literary Terms. If you keep both of these things, many soft copies are also available. I would recommend you either download it or visit your library to get this. If your library doesn't have one, please order one. So now let's briefly recap what we learned in this session. G.M. Hopkins was born into a Protestant family, Catholic family, Quaker family, Episcopalian family. The correct answer is Protestant family. Which of these works of Hopkins was published posthumously? Fine Beauty, The Windhover, The Wreck of the Deutschland, Spicylagium Poeticum, A Gathering of Verses by Manly Hopkins. The correct answer is Spicylagium Poeticum, A Gathering of Verses by Manly Hopkins. A curtal sonnet contains how many lines? 16 lines, 14 lines, 10 and a half lines, 11 and a half lines. The correct answer is 10 and a half lines. Which of these terms was not invented by Hopkins? Inscape, in stress, sprung rhythm, rising rhythm. Answer is rising rhythm. Which of these poems is an example of choral sonnet? The Wreck of the Deutschland, Pied Beauty, The Loss of the Eurydice, The Windhover. The correct answer is Pied Beauty. Let's summarize what we learnt in this session. Hopkins is one of the most important Victorian poets who came into recognition after his death because of the efforts of his friend Robert Bridges. He is known for poetic inventions such as sprung rhythm, curtal sonnet, which is a form of sonnet, a sonnet cut short out of the Petrarchan structure, where force 8 plus 6 becomes 6 plus 4 and a half, which is 10 and a half lines, inscape and in stress. It's about the ability, the quality that is special in any object of nature is inscape. Your ability to recognize and sense it is in stress. By that, we come to the end of session 16 on poetic devices in G.M. Hopkins. Thanks for listening.